I'm Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. Oh man, what an exciting time! You know, because here we are, the first month of the new year. It's our midterm election season, and you know this happening right now, this year, is one of the most important elections any of us will ever experience in the rest of our lives moving forward. You know, the last presidential election was the most important election because Trump's return for a second non-consecutive term set the stage for what's going on this year in the midterms. And, you know, when Trump came down the escalator, he had many things he talked about in that speech, but there were two primary things that President Trump talked about. You remember? I'm going to build a wall, right? The immigration issue. And what was the other one? Drain the swamp. And this election, the midterm election victory that we can have if we have a massive turnout and swamp them at the polls, because we're the majority of the country, this is a major swamp draining election year, and President Trump has been draining the swamp like nobody's business. There was a big story this week that hasn't gotten the publicity that it should. The media haven't been covering it to the degree that I think they should, but I'm going to recap it with you and explain how President Trump is draining the swamp on levels and in places that we don't see immediately. And it's this story about the leaker at the Pentagon, right? So there was a raid a few days ago, an FBI raid on the home of a Washington Post reporter. And the story goes there was a Pentagon contractor who, prior to the operation in Venezuela a couple weeks ago, leaked to the Washington Post, and was it the New York Times, about the operation to get Maduro before it happened. And the Washington Post did not report the story. They turned the leaker in to the government, and they got him. And they kept the operation secret. You know, one of the amazing things about the Maduro operation in Venezuela is that there were no leaks. So this is proof that President Trump is draining the swamp in ways that I never would have dreamed possible in such a short amount of time. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Welcome. If you're new, my name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. So the Washington, let me just give you a little background. The Washington Post is a deep state CIA operation. Everybody knows this. They don't hide it. Bob Woodward, you know, Woodward and Bernstein, Watergate. Bob Woodward was deep state. He was, before he was in his so-called civilian life, he was in naval intelligence. Woodward and Bernstein did not do any investigative reporting on Watergate. Everything was handed to Bob Woodward through a friend of his that he met when that he knew when he was in naval intelligence, Mark Felt, who was at the FBI and was pissed off at Richard Nixon for not making him the director when J. Edgar Hoover died, and he just gave everything to Bob Woodward. So if you've ever seen the movie All the President's Men, pure fiction. That's all made up bullcrap. And the Washington Post is, you know, that was a deep state operation to remove the president, Richard Nixon, by the deep state. And if you remember, right before that, the same people got rid of the vice president, Spiro Agnew, plugged in Ford, made Ford president. Big deep state coup. Hold on, street cleaner, street cleaner. So Watergate was a big deep state CIA coup that was carried out through the Washington Post. All right. Then you go a little while later, you've got the Pentagon Papers. Daniel Ellsberg leaked these classified documents about the Vietnam War to the Washington Post. They reported it, caused a lot of havoc. So the Washington Post is a deep state CIA operation without question. It's not even up for debate. And there's been other things too with the Washington Post over the years, but those are the two things that they're really famous for. So all of a sudden in 2026, hold on, I gotta mute this for this guy. I'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Just a minute. As soon as the street cleaner leaves, he's blasting the radio. So I'll be back in a minute. Don't go anywhere. All right. The street sweeper was blasting music, so I had to mute the mic. So if you missed what I said in the beginning, rewind and start over because I'm going to pick up where I left off. So with everything I told you about the Washington Post being a deep state CIA operation, which I think is very accurate, and I think everybody knows that, right? There's some big new revelations I gave you. Everybody knows this. So here we have this leaker in the Venezuela case. He gives all the information to the Washington Post. It's about a Trump military operation. They hate Trump, right? They're liberals. And they don't print the story. They don't report the story. The Washington Post held on to the story, turned them into the Trump administration. And then they helped bring this guy to justice. So what's going on here? Well, President Trump has the deep state on his side. At least a big chunk of it. At least the CIA Washington Post wing of it. So that tells me after being on the public scene for over 10 years, since he came down the escalator, Trump, after a decade, has made massive inroads into draining the swamp. You can see it with this Pentagon leaker case. any other time, the Washington Post would have run with that story before the operation, claimed sources are confidential, not cooperate. Furthermore, I think that the FBI raid on the reporter's house was just cover to try to save the journalistic integrity of the Washington Post protecting their sources. So, Radcliffe is the head of the CIA. He's the CIA director, and things are much more drained than you would think in Washington, D.C., because Trump's been there so long now. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of hires, a lot of elected officials, and a lot of cleaning house. Doge, all these things, USAID, all these things have happened, and the swamp is, now, of course, it's not completely drained. We had this Secret Service agent that James O'Keefe busted the other day, but he's done major swamp draining. And this leaker story is proof positive of it. So, as we're in this midterm election season, Trump is doing so much behind the scenes that we are not even privy to, and may never be officially privy to. So this is very exciting. I'm very excited about it. And that's why this election year, we have got to swamp them at the polls, have a mass turnout, make sure that your family and friends all go out and vote, and we will win and we will gain seats. Whether we win or lose, a lot of people are saying, oh, they'll do this, they'll do that. It is us that'll decide who wins this election, right? If we turn out en masse, like we did in the presidential election, we will win and we will gain seats. Because there's a lot more people that agree with Trump today than did a year ago. And by the time we get to the midterm election day, like not the primary, but the final one, primary turnout's important too, so we get the right candidates. But in November, that's it. That's we will swamp them. And that's what this entire year needs to be dedicated to. Don't be some victim and say, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to pull that. Who wins or loses the midterm elections is all up to us MAGA voters. That's it. Because there's more of us. So many people have become Trump supporters since he's been back in office. And when the tax returns come in and people get their bonuses from the tariffs, everything that's going on this year is going to even bring more people to our side. And that's how we will win and gain seats. Don't blame them. If we don't win, don't blame them for any shenanigans or anything. If we don't win, it's because we didn't get the turnout. Because we are the majority. We won the popular vote in the presidential election. We won every battleground state. And now there's more of us because of all these great things that the president is doing. And there's less of them with all the deportations and everything. I don't think so. They're not going to. The Supreme Court's going to side with Trump on that. Believe me. They're going to side with Trump on the tariffs. I don't see any indication as to why they wouldn't. That's right. It's all about turnout. If you're new to my channel, my name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe. Oh man, so I went to see the president's motorcade yesterday, and I missed it by about 15 minutes. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I missed it by about 15 minutes. I was like, oh. Well, I get another chance. I go up and see him over the winter once a month or so. It happens. I'll have another chance. I could go do it today, but at the golf course, but I'm not going to do that. I got too much stuff to do. Oh boy, oh boy. This is just, this is the year. This is the year. Welcome, welcome. And we win this year. We win we keep the majorities, gain some seats, we're perfectly positioned for 2028 to win again. You know, the things that Trump is doing, I mean, think about, you know, what would this country be like on this very day if Kamala Harris or Joe Biden were the president? Well, could you imagine Tim Walz as vice president right now? What would it be like in this country right now? What would it be like? Oh, it'd be a disaster. It'd be an economic disaster. The country would be on the verge of a Great Depression. Wearing hats like this would probably be illegal. You know, so far as Greenland, Trump knows something about Russia and China and Greenland that we don't know, that he has not made public. You know, the threat of China and Russia and Greenland, he has some information. And that's why he's going to take it. But you know, the thing with President Trump, if you follow everything he does, he always asks for a lot more than he wants, so that when he makes concessions to the other side, he still gets more than he wants. So I'm sure, you know, President Trump may be very satisfied with something less than annexing Greenland to the United States. Who knows? But believe me, whatever he really wants in regards to Greenland from Denmark, he will get it. Yep, he will get it. What his actual goal in Greenland is, I don't know if we know. I don't think we know what his actual, like, what he really wants from Greenland. I'm not saying he doesn't want Greenland to be part of the United States, to, you know, to the largest land expansion of the United States, larger than the Louisiana Purchase. I mean, that would be pretty amazing. But there's something less than annexing it as part of the United States that he would be happy with. We just don't know what it is, because he's always going to ask for the most and push for the most, and then get what he really wants, at least. Usually more than he really wants, in the least. That's how you read The Art of the Deal and watch how he handles the politicians. That's the way it works. Strategic positioning, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, Denmark, tiny little country. If you had an unlabeled map of Europe, most people couldn't find it. 5-dimensional chess, that's right. That's right. Whatever he wants in regards to Greenland, he will get. That doesn't mean he wants to make it part of the United States. I'm not saying he would turn the land away, but his real agenda is probably less than that. He's most definitely a genius. Yeah. Oh, someone's getting pulled over. They have a lot of new speeding laws in Florida, so you got to be very careful with the speed in Florida. This year, a lot of new speeding laws went into effect, and they are enforcing them. This is Speed Trap Alley behind me. I hate it. I just know, so I know not to. Yeah, there's what he wants with Greenland exactly, I don't know. Nobody knows. He hasn't told us. Yeah, I agree the liberals are morons. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, good point there, Kelsey. Yes, liberals are morons. That's true. Yes, welcome, everyone. Make sure you subscribe if you are new to the program. You know, I was watching last night, what's that movie called? Sicario? Anybody see Sicario? Is that how you pronounce it? And, you know, it's about the drug cartels and the CIA battling the drug cartels. And Sicario, it's so dated. Even though it's a somewhat recent movie. And I'm going to give you some spoilers of Sicario. It shows how Trump is a real badass president. Sicario is about the drug cartels and how the CIA, what you find out in that movie, it's a good movie. So you know, you can watch. It's got Brolin in it and Emily Blunt. It's a good movie, but it's about the drug cartels and the CIA and how the United States has decided there's nothing they can do about the drug cartels, but they can control which drug cartel is the lead. And there's this big dramatic scene in the movie where there's nothing they can do about the cartels or the drugs until you get people to stop popping pills and snorting cocaine in this country. And the U.S. policy in Sicario is just allowing the drug cartels to operate, but try to control which cartel is the lead cartel. And here you got President Trump, who's knocked out the drug cartels. I mean, I showed a graphic on the morning show yesterday, if you were watching, that the monthly fentanyl deaths have plummeted. It's a great movie, but the premise of it is dated. And that was the thinking before President Trump. There's nothing you can do with the cartels. There's too much demand. You can't do anything. Trump's defeated the cartels, right? He shut down the southern border. Very little can get through there. He's cut down drug importations by sea by 97%. And this has been a common thought for decades. Oh, nothing you can do about it. The demand's too strong. And Donald Trump did what they said was impossible. He's shut down the drug cartels. That's it. You know, they're panicking down there. Mm-hmm. Very obvious. Oh, it's great. It's great. I mean, so I showed this graphic on my live stream yesterday morning. So if you watch yesterday's, it's the one with Stephen Miller in the thumbnail. If you go back and watch that, I think it was in the last hour, of the fentanyl deaths in the last month have dropped dramatically. The average monthly fentanyl deaths were in the close to 10,000, and last month they were less than 3,000, because fentanyl is in short supply. And a lot of people think they're taking fentanyl, but they're not. They're taking placebos. So fentanyl overdoses, and that just under 3,000, a lot of them may not be fentanyl overdoses. They may have had a reaction to whatever fake fentanyl they were taking, right? President Trump is ridding America of fentanyl. Who would have thought it was possible? Right now, the largest drug rehab in the history of the world is taking place in this country. President Trump's, for the last, I don't know, month or two, has had so many addicts going through a cold turkey detox because he shut down the drugs coming into the country. The few that are here are so expensive they can't afford them. So, you know, and in Sicario, they're like, oh, it's impossible. You can't do anything about it. So we could just, you know. No, President Trump did something about it. Mm-hmm. That's it. And it's a pretty darn good thing he did. Who would have thought you could shut down the importation of illegal drugs at the level that Trump has done? Who would have thought? Mm-hmm. No one would have thought it was even remotely possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, President Trump is making America normal again, that's for sure. That's everything that's going on here is making America great again, normal again, drug-free again. Yeah. It's an absolute amazing miracle. It shows you how powerful the country is when the president will use the resources that we have. I mean, look at these space-age weapons they used in Venezuela. I mean, they have weapons that are like 30, 40 years more advanced than anyone thought were even out there. Iran, Russia, and China must be freaking out at the American military technology. Mm-hmm. Now, guys, if you'd like to support my channel, become a member here on YouTube. You know, if you become a YouTube member, you get access to the members-only emojis that my wife has created. Those of you that are members, if you could show the emojis, they're pretty cool. And you get your name in a special color that stands out in the chat. Plus, you're supporting my channel. So if you become a member, you get all that. So I'd appreciate it, guys, if you do become a member. But yes, that's why this election year is so important. I mean, I'm going to spend this entire year reminding everybody to swamp them at the polls, go out, vote, make sure your friends and your family all go out and vote, and we will win. And they won't even be able to have a check. And it's not just the Congress, it's governors, state legislatures, school boards, everything. You know, if we have a massive turnout, we'll win even at the local level. This is a big one. This is a big one. You know, I was wondering about Marjorie Taylor. I had a question about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'll ask you guys your thoughts on this. You know, Ilhan Omar's in a lot of hot water with the Minnesota financial scams, with the Leering Centers and everything. And one of the things that's got her in such hot water is the financial disclosures as a member of Congress shows that she went from a negative net worth of $45,000 to being worth 33 million today. And her husband was not wealthy either. He had a net worth a couple years back of about 50,000, 55,000. You know, and now they're worth $30 million plus dollars. And this is all known through financial disclosures. And I was wondering if that's one of the reasons Marjorie Taylor Greene left Congress. She doesn't want to have to deal with the financial disclosure. She made $25 million, it was reported, in the last few years. And we know all that from financial disclosures. So do you think that might have been a factor, that she just didn't want to deal with the financial disclosure? Now she doesn't have to worry about financial disclosures anymore. I think it was a factor. It was interesting to see her boyfriend, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was back with the White House press corps this week and was asking President Trump questions. There's also a big story in the Daily Mail today about Tucker. And Laura Loomer said yesterday that she is going to do an expose on the Carlson family, which I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I know quite a bit about them, but I'm looking forward to her doing that because I don't think a lot of people know, and I'm sure she knows things I don't. But there's a big story in the Daily Mail today that Tucker Carlson this week met with Trump at the Oval Office. And, you know, what I've been wondering, what's going on with Tucker Carlson is just very bizarre and very out of character. Very out of character. And what I've been wondering about Tucker with this buying the house in Qatar and defending Muslims, and people are saying that he's getting paid by Qatar and all that stuff. I'm not denying that those things are necessarily true. But we know that his father was a lifelong CIA guy, right? Tucker Carlson's dad was a lifetime CIA guy, and when Putin told us, and this has been confirmed even by Tucker, that he tried to join the CIA but was turned down. Really? A legacy hire was turned down? So I'm not saying this is true, but is it possible that Tucker Carlson is working for Trump and buddying up to Qatar and the Muslims and the Muslim world to help President Trump further his agenda over there? Because if, you know, we got the ADL, we got Loomer, we got Mark Levin after Tucker Carlson. He's saying crazy things about Qatar. He said he was buying a house in Qatar, all this craziness. And then he's in the Oval Office meeting with the president this week. So what do you guys think? Is that possible that he's kind of like he's working for the deep state, he's working for the president to further his agenda in the Middle East? Because the way Tucker Carlson's behaving, and then you find him at the White House, it's the only thing I can think of. It doesn't make sense. If he was doing all these things for corrupt reasons, would the president be meeting with him? I don't think so. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, guys, to the channel. My name is Brian, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. So when I go to Starbucks, you know, because I go to the Starbucks right here, and I go to Starbucks every day, I don't wear my Trump stuff when I go into Starbucks, because most of the other Starbuckses in my neighborhood, they find out I'm MAGA. Some of them know who I am, you know, from here or on the radio, and they start messing with my coffee, giving me decaf and everything. So I go undercover, you know, when I go inside Starbucks, because I don't want them to, you know, start giving me decaf like my formerly favorite Starbucks that's closer to my house than the one I go to now. But I got there and they opened late. The door was locked, and I'm standing out front, and this woman comes up. She's like, "Oh man!" And I looked up, and she was Muslim. This was just right before the live stream this morning at 5 a.m. And I got this it says 5:04 a.m. So she's got workout clothes on, but she's got the Muslim hijab. She's wearing a hijab on her head, or whatever it is. You know, she's got the head thing on, the hijab. And we're talking about them not being open. We're having a conversation. She's like, "Oh man," she's like, "I need my caffeine." I was like, "Yeah, me too." You know. She's like, "I can't go to the gym without the caffeine." And you know, we're just did a little conversation with this Muslim. And I'm wondering, if I was wearing this hat or this sweatshirt, would she have had the conversation with me? You know what I mean? What do you think? This was just like 40 minutes ago. And I was thinking when we were talking, she was laughing, you know, and I don't think she would have talked to me if I would have had the Trump hoodie and the MAGA hat on. What do you guys think? I think no. Yeah. It's, you know. But I was wondering, yeah, I bought this from the official Trump store. This is a nice one. I've had this one for a long time, and everything Trump makes is very high quality. So this is, I've had this for a long time, and it's like new. But this is what I was wondering with the Muslim, other than would she have been so friendly and joking around with me with the MAGA gear. But is there a conflict with her? You know, Muslim women wear the hijabs to cover, so they're not objects of lust. That's why Muslim women dress that way. And she's wearing gym workout clothes with like yoga pants and things like that. And those are, yoga pants are like, spray-on clothes. And I'm thinking, isn't there a conflict between should a Muslim woman be wearing the yoga pants out in public? Isn't there, if she's got the hijab on, practicing Muslim, isn't there a conflict with that? I don't know. I didn't ask. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I would most definitely think there's a conflict with that. America is great with President Trump. He's got to finish the job of returning. What President Trump is doing is a reset. He's doing a great global reset. America being great makes the world greater. The United States is the stabilizing force in the country. Oh, there's semi-parts behind me. I wonder if he speaks English. Maybe Ice will pull up and check his CDL license. That'd be pretty cool. I don't see any ICE vehicles around. And that's not an interstate, that's a local truck, so they probably mostly are checking the interstate, not the local drivers. The local drivers live here. Welcome. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. That's right. That's right. No, but there is definitely a conflict in the LeeZep. But she's a very nice lady. Mm-hmm. That's right. But if if you are an American, why would you not vote for the Trump-backed candidates this year? Everything President Trump's doing in this second term is total perfection. Total perfection. Without question. Total perfection. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ice, baby, ice. I don't know what this guy's doing. It's kind of blocking the exit. Let me see. And that's a delivery for, could be a Starbucks delivery. Who knows? He's delivering to one of the restaurants here. Yep. Well, listen, guys, I'll see you later today. Yeah, I'll podcast at some point. So if you're new, subscribe, click that notification bell, and you can catch my podcast later in the studio where I take live calls from those of you watching me on YouTube. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time. Take care.